Hello, everyone. Today I am joined with Maliha Abidi, a renowned author and artist, to discuss her latest book, Rise, which features and celebrates 100 women of color. Maliha is originally from Karachi, Pakistan, and currently resides in the UK. She's a full-time medical neuroscience student at the University of Sussex and has been an artist her entire life. Maliha, welcome.
Thank you so much, Judy, for having me here as a guest today. I'm such a fan of Diversify Our Narrative and everything that you've been working so hard for, and just really grateful to be a part of the Dawn community.
Awesome. We are very grateful for you to be part of our community as well. So I guess just to start off briefly, you can tell us a bit about yourself, how you became interested in writing and art, and how that sort of journey has led you to this place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Judy. I'll start by introducing myself. So my name is Maliha Abidi. I'm an artist and an author and an activist. My journey in writing really started when I was young, and I just used to writing and creating art was like has always been my way of processing things. I have just been fascinated by just being able to express myself through these two creative mediums. But when it comes to book writing or like working in publishing, that happened when I was 21, and I was sitting at this art, like at this book store cafe. I used to go there to create artwork, just to like chill out, hang out, read and everything. And I started noticing like a lot of books that were focused on like collections of women biographies. And I absolutely love them because they brought together my two passions, art and writing. So I love them. And I think the trend for those kind of books started with the Rebel Girl book, which I have contributed to as well as an artist. So I'm just really grateful for that. But I was seeing like a lack of Pakistani stories, and I was just seeing like one or two stories of Pakistani women, barely. I just started to like, that made me think that, okay, maybe I should do like a series of portraits to like celebrate Pakistani women because there's so many incredible stories. And I remember just like sitting down with my notebook and just starting to write down names of Pakistani women. And of course, I had done series before, and I had done like, I have been creating art for social justice to celebrate women's stories, to tell different stories, to process my own things as a creative, for over 10 years now. So that part of it wasn't new to me, but I just wanted to like create like a series to celebrate Pakistani women. And when I started writing down the names, like without me even thinking, like it became like a list of 80 or 100 names, and it was just absolutely insane. That made me just think that I cannot do just an Instagram post with like a caption. I need to do something more with that. And somewhere like that clicked for me that, okay, I can, maybe I should create a book. And that's how my journey into writing started. And so Pakistan for Women was my first collection, and I remember Diversify Our Narrative being so supportive for that book as well. Then I wanted to do a bigger collection and really wanted to make sure that I include women from all around the world. Of course, include Pakistani women, South Asian women from different countries, include women from the Middle East, from South America, from North America, from various Asian countries, from various African countries. Really like dig deep when it comes to diversity, and not just because another part that was really frustrating me is like every time Women's Month was coming around, I was seeing the same list, same lazy list that the media platform was like putting out because they didn't want to do research and they just wanted to tell the same stories. That's not the fault of the stories that they were trying to tell. If anything, I think they were just like, they were telling stories just from the US, and of course, US media does get like a lot more attention. So they were saying these are diverse stories, but then they were just from the US. It was diversity just from like one angle, and not intersectional at all. So with Rise, I really wanted to make sure that, we include stories from all around the world. And that was like number one priority for myself and my publisher, Sahi Books, and my editor, Lynn there. We have included 100 stories in Rise from over 40 countries and we made sure that, yes, we wanted to keep like geographic diversity in mind and racial diversity in mind, and celebrate different cultures. We really wanted to also make sure that we're celebrating professions, different professions that women are in, and different age groups and different timelines. So you will see stories that existed like 1200 years ago, and contemporary stories as well, and stories of young women, and women who have, unfortunately, we have lost. I loved working on Rise for over 2 years, and creating the portraits, and just researching on stories, and being able to interview some of the women, and women as well in the book. So it's just been an incredible journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we first of all, Dawn absolutely loves Pakistan for Women, and we were very thrilled and excited to be part of that process for your book. And now being part of this process for your new book is super exciting as well. This is sort of a follow-up question. You mentioned a lot about really trying to dig deep and really trying to make sure that the books and the stories that you represent aren't from, the lazy list of 10 or 20 women that the media always portrays that are from the United States. So I guess I'm just sort of wondering what your researching process was like in terms of ensuring that you got such a diverse variety of women from these places. I know you mentioned sitting down and interviewing with them, but were you able to travel to places? I know COVID must have been an issue, but what was the sort of process that allowed you to really be able to collect these 100 stories?
Yeah, so the process was very different. I started by, of course, making a list, and there were constant debates between the team and myself, where it was like, should we make it more than 100? Should we make it 200? Just because there's so many stories, right? And of course, yeah, there was some traveling involved, but COVID did get in the way. COVID got in the way of publishing the book as well, so we had to delay publishing a few times. I was able to meet some women face to face, and just being able to interview some on the phone, and over Zoom, and otherwise as well. But really, the key was making the list of names. So there were lists on lists on lists. So it was names of women. Then there was a paragraph under their name, where it was what is the summary of their story, or and it was just so incredible to learn that, for example, Michelle Obama is somebody that we are so, of course, we love her, but we are also so used to seeing her in the media being celebrated, and it's so incredible. And then we have an artist like, Frida Kahlo, and we have, so many incredible women that we are so, again, used to seeing in the media and being celebrated in different places. And I was just so surprised to see that stories from other countries that even I didn't know about were just as impactful for their people, for their communities. It was just really incredible to me, because at the end of the day, what I learned was that there was a need for such a project, but also the fact that just because you haven't heard of a story so widely and they're lesser known doesn't mean that they're any less impactful or significant. That was just so exciting to me. And I was most fascinated by how every woman in the book can be an activist. You can classify them as you can categorize them as an activist as well. But they're also women in STEM, women in sports, women in arts. It's just really, really amazing to me. And just the research process was made up of so many different things. We really wanted to make sure that when it comes to the word diversity, we're looking at it from different angles. We are including stories from, again, all different countries, all different continents, celebrating women as much as possible.
That's phenomenal. I guess my next question is just sort of, you have spent the last few years working on Rise, and that is definitely no small feat. And I know that you also study at University of Sussex as a student. So I was wondering sort of how you are able to balance your entire life of being a writer and artist, and also trying to keep up with your studies. I know, coming from a college student, that is particularly very difficult.
So I'm on a break. So I'm not doing it all at the moment. I have taken a break, and who knows that when I do go back, if my education path is going to be the same, because in the recent months, so many things have happened that are just so incredible. And again, I've had a career in art and writing way longer than I have been studying, if that makes sense. And I do often take breaks in between, just because it's a full-time thing for me. And again, it's a career itself. So yeah, that's something that I don't have anything inspirational to say about that because I'm not doing it all at once anymore. I am on a break from my education.
Well, very impressive to like decide to be on that break and to choose to, prioritize certain things over others. And that is like very commendable because a lot of our audience members are also college students or people studying, but they also have other passions. And sometimes it's very difficult to balance all of that. So I guess sort of shifting gears and talking about instead of the like research and writing process, more about like the artistic process. I was just sort of wondering what your creative process is like when you're designing these illustrations. Do you have like a certain color scheme in mind? Like, what's your sort of process when portraying these women?
The process is very much like I start with a sketch. I don't sometimes know what I'm going to end up with, but sometimes I do start with a very clear vision. For example, later today, I'm excited to start a piece and I know exactly what I want to do, and I just need to take some photographs to use as reference photos. So I need to get my camera afterwards. But sometimes it's like, I'm taking like pictures of either myself or somebody else is like modeling for me. But that happens rarely. I usually like try to make reference for myself. Starting with a sketch, I always am drawn towards like really bright colors, and that's kind of like whether you're talking about my traditional art or my digital art, like that's something that's very consistent. And I love diving into details like at the later stage of the artwork. But when it comes to Rise and the artwork related to it, so there are 100 portraits that made it into the book. Overall, I created more than 100 portraits. Like I created probably 200, 210 portraits, something like that. And of course, it matters, depends to illustration, but it's very interesting to just kind of look back and think about the misery that this process was, because like imagine like you're drawing like 100 portraits, but you're not drawing just 100 portraits, you're creating illustrations of incredibly legendary women. So there's like this pressure of like, oh, you need to do justice to them, and you need to like, the portrait in itself is like another story. That was just like really something. And yeah, it was just really, really exciting, and just I'm really grateful, but it was one stressful process. Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like a stressful process. I'm sorry about that. The pressure can be high to portray incredible.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of goes into my next question, which kind of talks about like the struggles or certain like pressures that you faced. I know that you kind of went through the whole publishing a book and writing and illustrating a book with Pakistan for Women, but I guess are there any different or new struggles that you might have come up with when it comes to publishing Rise? I know you mentioned earlier with COVID, but was there any sort of like unexpected things that kind of, prevented you from being able to like really be able to work on this book? Or are there like other stressors that might have impacted the process of creating the book?
Sometimes I was going through like artist block or writer's block, and I remember taking some time in between, off time in between, just so that I can, you know not hit burnout, and just kind of, because if you think about it, it is like an extensive process, and it did take like 2 years. But it's just sometimes it can be a bit like I chose to take some time off in between as well, just so that I don't, like, my artist blog doesn't continue, and I can take a step back, shake it off, and just like come back with a fresh and creative mindset as well. So that was like a little bit, but it wasn't anything particular. It was just the fact that sometimes, like, I was a student, I was working on other projects as well. So sometimes when things got really busy, I just felt like it's good to take a break, instead of just kind of keep on going.
Absolutely. And I guess on the positive aspect, what was sort of the most exciting or most memorable experience that you've had after, releasing Rise and being able to talk about it with everyone?
The most rewarding part was when the book reached the people itself, and when it was available, and like, it recently just came out in the US, and in the UK it came out a few months ago. And then it was just really, really exciting, being able to see the audience with and my community with the book, and just finally it being published. And then I think on a personal level, I walked into like a few bookstores and then the book was there, and it was just like a surreal moment, and it was just so funny to me for some reason. And then my husband just kept on going up to the cashier and the staff working at the bookstore, and they were like, oh, can she sign this book, she wrote this book. And I'm like, you did not just do this to me. But it was just really really amazing, because it's kind of like, oh, like you spent, you know, so many hours into this project, and there was an entire team at Saki Books, which I'm so grateful for, and they're so wonderful, and we're able to tell incredible stories of these incredible women, and finally it was out in the world. So yeah.
Awesome. That's a very funny story. I that's so funny. Have you ever like done like book signings before, and have there been events, or has it mostly been like virtual? Have you been able to have in-person meetings?
Yeah, until last year, it was like a lot of it was virtual, but now we have started to do like in-person events as well. We did like a few launch events here and there for different bookstores and events for Rise, and same with Women Rise. So yeah, there have been like book signings and like several events, and it's been really, really wonderful. And it's just always so incredible to like engage in like, you know, conversations with the community that has known about these stories, and is inspired by the same women that I am inspired by. So we just get like another reason to connect.
Absolutely. And in that similar vein, when you talk about being able to connect with members of your community who read your books, I guess I'm just wondering what is sort of like the main takeaways or the general like message or idea that you want your readers to get after reading Rise.
There are a few things that I'd like the audience and the readers to take away from Rise. Firstly, is just I hope they feel inspired by all the incredible women of color from around the world that are in Rise. And I think the stories that impacted me the most, well, all of them, like, you know, inspired me on different levels. But I just hope that they inspire others the same way as well. So that's one thing. And I hope like people are able to, and you know, especially women from around the world are able to see themselves represented in publishing, because in publishing we still have an issue of like lack of representation, which was the beginning of Pakistan for Women, and which was the beginning for Rise as well. And we still need more writers of color, and we still need more books about women of color and people of color in general. So I hope that some people feel represented, and feel inspired, and maybe even writers to, you know, do their own thing. I also want people to, I think about the world a bit differently as well, that it's not just what we are so used to seeing in the media, especially like American media. It's not just that, it's like so much more, and there's so many fierce and incredible stories out there that are changing the world, that are contributing to the world, and we hopefully continue to celebrate those women as well. Because I personally was just, when I was researching, I had no idea about so many of these stories, and I was like, I had no idea that this big event that happened in our history, this incredible woman had such a big hand in that, you know, or I had no idea, as even like a South Asian woman, that we had such stories from this part of the world. So I hope like others have these realizations as well, and just it becomes like almost like a um like an activity for them, where they're discovering you know, incredible stories, but are also just going on this journey on their own of self-discovery as well, I guess.
Amazing. You also mentioned about how you want Rise to sort of inspire the readers and your community members. I guess I'm just wondering who has inspired you the most, who has contributed, or you know, been your back or your like your rock throughout this entire process in terms of writing, creating, designing this book.
There are many people who inspire me. I mean, Judy, you inspired me for all the work that you're doing at Diversify Our Narrative, you know. But I feel like if I were to name two people very close to me, that's going to be my father and my husband, both men. And you know, so they have just been um, such a huge support to me, and yeah, just really, really, I'm grateful for both of them. I'm also really inspired by Angela Davis, and she's somebody who really helped me understand feminist study, feminist theory, especially when it came to women of color. Sometimes I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, oh my God, I'm living in the same time as her. It's her world, we're just living in it. She's just so incredible. And yeah, but there's so many, and of course she's in Rise as well. But there's so many other women that inspire me, and just really grateful.
I know in Rise, Malala has also talked about your book. Have you ever been able to like meet her or talk with her or something like that? You just mentioned influential women, and I also thought about Malala, who is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think incredible is just like an understatement, but how else do we describe her, right? She's so sweet and she's so wonderful. And yeah, she was kind enough to give a quote for the book, and she's also in the book. And she was in Pakistan for Women as well. And she's been representing Pakistan and Pakistani women for such a long time, and just advocating for girls' education globally. So I absolutely love her. But recently we've been able to like have a conversation virtually. I have not met her yet, and COVID is not making it any easier. But yes, we had a conversation recently about reimagining education and using technology to advance girls' education. That entire conversation, the 25 minutes, just I learned so much, and it was amazing.
Amazing. I'm not surprised at all that she's incredible. um, yeah, so I guess in terms of like my final question, I was just sort of wondering, is there any advice or tips or just, general messages that you would want to give to aspiring young female authors who really wish to write books, pursue art, and also engage in this sort of like critical dialogue of ensuring that women of color or specifically marginalized groups are being represented in publishing, in writing, in art? I guess coming from that perspective, is there any advice that you would give to young female writers?
I would say that it's just, I understand it can be a bit challenging to find, I guess, opportunities, especially as women of color working in art or writing. It can be challenging, but I think we need to be so grateful to the women who have paved the way for us before us in these industries, and just feel inspired by them, that they didn't stop even when people tried to stop them, and neither will we. And of course, look at like programs that are available. Firstly, in order for you to kind of put yourself out there and put your artwork out there, thanks to social media, thanks to like so many opportunities out there, I feel like you don't really need to rely on that middleman. You can just kind of like put yourself out there, put your work out there. And of course, you have like amazing platforms and communities as well that can support like diversify your art. That community is amazing. And of course, like I've seen like Diversify Our Narrative highlight so many incredible artists as well. I also think that creating, okay, so like now I'm getting a bit technical, but like creating a portfolio, like creating art for yourself first and practicing, that goes a really long way. Creating an art portfolio, like think very professionally, and like how would you like to present your work to art galleries, and thinking about where do you want to go as an artist, or art galleries, or like editorial companies, or sorry, editorial commission work, or commission work in general. Like how do you want to go about your art career? So I feel like portfolio is really important. And then before portfolio, you need to practice, and you need to kind of like work on a few pieces that show your style and really like show your strength as an artist, but are also um are showing a variety in your work, that yeah, you are able to create like all kinds of things, or truly like what you're passionate about. I think creating a portfolio goes a long way as well. And of course, creating like your own art gallery on like Instagram or Twitter, or and actually using maybe TikTok to show your process, and like these kind of things. I feel like they go a long way, and sometimes you underestimate them. I myself, like, I've been creating art for social justice for 10 years. Like, social media has been the biggest thing when it comes to creating a community and garnering a community. And I have people in my community that started with myself like in 10 years ago, and so I think that's something that I'd say.
Absolutely. Definitely social media is very helpful in supporting like smaller BIPOC artists. And I think it's something that is like very, very important in terms of helping specifically like marginalized groups, achieve like recognition and success. So that's all the questions that I had. Is there anything else you want to add? Any final messages you want to send to our Dawn audience members?
Not really. No, I feel like we've had such a wonderful conversation here. I am just obsessed with Diversify Our Narrative, what you guys are celebrating constantly, what you're raising awareness around, what you're campaigning for. Like, it's so incredible. And knowing the Dawn team, like, there are some really brilliant people behind it. So I feel inspired by you guys all the time, and it's just really, really incredible. So thank you so much for doing the work that you are doing. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity that you're allowing me to tell my own story through Dawn.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story with Dawn. We definitely appreciate it. And we look forward to working with you in the future. And also for our Dawn audience members, be sure to check out Rise. It's available in the United States. And we will be doing a post specifically about what Rise is and the details. Awesome.
Thank you.